Coach, the energy out there felt different. What changed for the team today?
It was the new game day scratchers from the California Lottery. Players, everything. Those games sent the team's energy through the roof.
Are you saying it was the off-field play that made the difference on the field?
Hey, a little play makes your day, and today, it made the game. That's all for now.
Coach, one more question.
Play the new Los Angeles Chargers, San Francisco 49ers, and Los Angeles Rams Scratchers from the California Lottery. A little play can make your day. Please play responsibly. Must be 18 years or older to purchase, play, or claim.
Support American-made, tariff-free clothing with American Giant. They aren't affected by tariffs because their clothing products never left the U.S. Get 20% off your first order when you use promo code STAPLE20 at American-Giant.com.
In a so-called free state, officials and stakeholders concoct solutions to problems often created by other bureaucrats and with little regard for infringements on the people. These stories are born at the apex of freedom and entrepreneurship. We foolishly advocate for the taxpayer. Brian's Beat presents Freedom Fools.
Hour 3 of Freedom Fools. He's right. We advocate for freedom, entrepreneurship, and nomadism. Let's get ready. We brought up a few things today, and we can expand on that. Yes, I'm back. I know that. The Brian's Beat quote of the day from Warren Buffett. It takes 20 years to build a reputation and 5 minutes to ruin it. If you think about that, you'll do things differently. It's amazing. And I think he's right. I don't know about 20 years, as in it definitely takes 20 years to build a reputation. I think you can build a good reputation in 5 years, depending on your age, depending on maybe you run a business. But it certainly doesn't take long to ruin it. And I think we can look, whether you're talking Washington, D.C., Bacon Hill, anywhere in the country, our politicians, they came in with a blaze of glory. But it doesn't take long. I want you to think hard. Really think hard. When was the last person that you elected to office, or maybe you did not elect her or him, that you can honestly say left office with an intact reputation? That might be a pretty good one to do for Labor Day weekend. What business person, it's Labor Day weekend, what business person would you throw into that category? We've also talked about the flag of the Commonwealth. And should we keep it the way that it is? Should we remove the sword off of the flag? Or, as the designs that have come out from the board, the commission, there's no Native American on there at all. So what's your thought? Last night, most people just said, remove the sword. And I agree. I keep the Native American. We've had a couple of people today that are okay with the sword, some that are okay with removing the Native American. So I'm curious if you were going to be the deciding vote. So in other words, it's 2-2, 5-5, whatever the case may be, and you are that deciding vote. How would you vote on this whole thing dealing with the Commonwealth of Massachusetts flag? 508-996-0500. Oh, there's more. You know that. But wait, there's more, as they like to say. The federal government is contemplating, I like that word, contemplating bringing federal law enforcement into Boston. South Station, which if you I'm sure there are people that have gone through South Station a lot more than yours truly. But I can tell you, I have been to since South Coast Rail started 4 different times to South Station. 4 different times. You might be saying, okay, that's not that much. I can tell you, in this century, I have been to South Station more than 100 times. No joke. No joke. And I can tell you, in the decade leading up to this century, I was in South Station way more than 100 times. There's petty crime that happens in South Station. I'm not going to try to make it sound like there's no crime, but nothing that you'd really write home about. And case in point, when was the last time you saw on the evening news, local news, a story about crime at South Station? And how serious was that crime? Serious enough to bring in the National Guard, bring in the FBI? I was listening to the transportation guy when they brought the Acela train into South Station. And he was talking about the idea of bringing in the feds to take care of the area. I've got it right here. No, I always have it right here. How come it's never right here when I need it? Here it is. Ta-ta. Here in South Station, we need to address the cleanliness, the crime, the safety, and security of the station for the rail workers, for the passengers, because the people of Boston deserve that. Deputy Secretary of Transportation Steve Bradbury. Now, I can talk a little bit about the cleanliness. If there are folks that take South Coast Rail and you go up to South Station on a regular basis, I'd love to hear your comments on the cleanliness. It's not the cleanest. It's not the dirtiest, but it's not the cleanest train station around. Reason why I bring that up, do we want federal law enforcement people, FBI, Homeland Security, ICE? Do we want folks like that taking a mop and bucket and cleaning up the place? Is that what your federal tax dollars are supposed to be doing? Not mine. Not mine at all. Do we want the National Guard helping out? Maybe taking the squeegee to the windows? No. In fact, if we've got the National Guard at South Station monitoring petty crime and pushing a broom, well, what happens when something bad happens? Like a fire? Like a quasi-national disaster? You know, every once in a while we get tornadoes around here. Are they supposed to be doing the squeegee work over at South Station? Or are they supposed to be called up, courtesy of the governor, to take care of a malady that has happened? I know what I want. I want them taking care of helping people if a tree has fallen and the firefighters just don't have enough manpower to take care of it. I don't want them pushing a mop and a broom. There's not enough crime at South Station. So when the Deputy Secretary of Transportation, I don't know where this Steve Bradbury is from, but from a person who's been through South Station numerous times in my life, this century, last century. It's not that dirty. There's not much crime. As far as safety goes, look, I don't know that we need Homeland Security coming in because you got some homeless people around. And they do sit out in the steps, but they don't, excuse me. I'm sure there's some people that are upset that they're there, but they're not really bothering folks. If you give them a couple of ducats, they're happy. But by and large, they're not doing anything that Boston police does not handle on a regular basis. Going to take it another step. That area of Boston, which as a Ute, I avoided like the plague because it was pretty close to South Boston. That area of Boston right now, financial district, you've got the seaport. It's an entirely different part of Boston than it was in the 50s, 60s, and 70s. It is one of the safest areas in the city of Boston. I'll tell you, you know I'm not a Donald Trump fan, but I'm going to try to put that aside right now. I'm going to give you my reasons that I believe Donald Trump is going down this particular road. It's not for your safety. It really is not for your safety. Because, like I said, you go down there. You don't listen to Mayor Wu. Don't listen to me. Don't listen to Governor Healy. Go check for yourself. Here, you trust Barry? Go read Barry's article from, I'm going to say, April, when he went on South Coast Rail with his wife and son. Look how much he talks about crime, not. I think he does mention a little bit about the fact that it wasn't the neatest place around. But check it out for yourself. Read the article. Go up to the city. Go up to South Station. And tell me what you see. Now, you might be saying, well, I got up there. There was no crime. They knew I was coming. Okay. Well, they knew I was coming because there was no crime either. In the hundreds of times that I've been at South Station, I feel safe I feel safer at South Station at 11 or 12 o'clock at night than I do in some areas around here. And that's not to downgrade the city of New Bedford. That is just stating a point. There are enough police roaming South Station, inside in squad cars, going over to the aquarium. I mean, this is a heavily trafficked area. There are more fender benders than there are pickpockets. So the idea that we need law enforcement to protect the people, to clean up the area, to fight crime, I'm sorry. I don't want to say they're lying. I would say this. I don't know how often Mr. Bradbury combs the area. I don't know who fed him any information. Now, I'm willing to believe that he doesn't want to believe the Democratic lawmakers representing the city of Boston or representing that area of Massachusetts in Washington, D.C. That's more political than anything else. But the South Station area, in fact, I'm going to come out and say this because I go to South Station and I go to North Station. South Station is safer than North Station. North Station, where the Celtics and Bruins play, has a little more crime, not a lot, a little more crime in that area than South Station. So you might be all right. You might just believe the rhetoric that there's a lot of crime and it needs to be taken care of. The fact of the matter is there is not a lot of crime, and it's not that police aren't doing their job or the courts aren't backing up the police after the police do their job. It's that it's a heavily trafficked area. And because it's heavily trafficked, there are a lot of police. So if you are a crook, you really don't want to be where there are a lot of cops. Stands to reason. 508-996-0500. Now, why would it be that President Trump is going down this road? Why is he talking up sending in federal forces to beef up local police departments or to rid these cities of crime, even though the crime numbers have come down? And again, we can debate the numbers, but no matter how we debate the numbers, they're still the numbers. Whether somebody cooked the books or not, you're still using cooked, booked numbers. So, one reason, and this is not in any order. You notice how talking about law enforcement in the big city of Washington, D.C. has taken Epstein off the front lips of the television newscasters. You don't read it on page 1 of the newspaper if you even bother to read a newspaper anymore. So Epstein has been removed from the front pages. And I would have to say in this particular case, the Trump administration has done an excellent job of getting people to not talk about Epstein. No ifs, ands, or buts. Look, gold star for that one. Next, there is redistricting going on not only in Texas. There are a few other states thinking about it. California is going to have a ballot question about it coming up in November this year or next year, one or the other. So there's redistricting, which probably shouldn't be happening, but the more that the president keeps it out of the news, the better his chances of getting more Republicans elected into office in 2026. Why is he doing this? My thought process is that he knows he's losing the American people, and he knows that he has been very busy and he's kept Congress from doing a lot of what Congress should be doing. And if you look at some of these town meetings, in particular town meetings that have been going on in Republican districts, you've got these Republicans getting booed and shouted off the stage. Whether it's Gaza, tariffs, whatever the case may be. And so the president and all the president's men and women have figured out we got to do something about this. So that's where redistricting comes in. But you don't want it to the point that everyone is talking about it. And you certainly don't want to get it to the point where, as what was going on in Texas, you've got the Democrats walking out and refusing to be in the State House to make a quorum. So that's the other reason. Here's My third reason, and I see you there, and I'm going to get to you. My third reason, and I believe I have a fourth. I just can't think of it off the top of my head, or a better way of saying it is, what happens when you don't write it down on a piece of paper? You sometimes forget. Third reason is, it's the economy, stupid. Here in the Commonwealth, more people filed for an unemployment claim last week than the week prior. And I think if you look at the numbers from the week before that, same thing. And we've had a lot of slip sliding with the numbers. And the president has traded out people because he doesn't like what's going on with the numbers. And that would be the fourth thing. That's the one I forgot to write down. How he is switching people in and out, trying to get the numbers in his favor on these boards and commissions. But the economy seems to be slipping day in, and day out. And to me, quite frankly, that's the big reason. Folks voted for a couple of things. They wanted the border sealed up and many of the people that were here illegally to be taken out properly. And they voted because they wanted a better economy. I used to get a call from a guy, like, my gas prices. All right, well, we haven't seen much of a change with gas prices, and, you know, it's still early. But the economy hasn't gotten any better. 508-996-0500. I do appreciate your patience. Good afternoon.
Hey, Brian.
Hey, Brian.
Yeah, I was listening to your dialogue. You know, it's a good thing there's open lines so you can, as an outlet to diffuse, because I can sense your blood pressure going up with all of these topics.
You do,
know,
huh?
You're a young guy. You got to take care of yourself.
Young.
I know you don't like Donald Trump, but do you like Donald Duck?
Nope, can't talk like him either.
You don't like Donald Duck either?
I can take him or leave him.
I think you need to go out to a cookout, maybe Monday. It's supposed to be 80 degrees, really nice. You know?
And what am I going to do?
You know why?
What am I going to do at the cookout?
Well, you can have a clam bake if you want.
Okay.
Whatever tickles your fancy, Brian.
All
whatever
right.
wings your wing, you know?
Okay, thanks.
As far as South Boston, Brian, you know why, you got no problems there, because they know that you know Kung Fu. You're a Kung Fu master. So they can probably send you a mile away. That's why.
Well, I learned from one of the best.
But here in New Bedford, I wouldn't mind having more federal agents around here. Clean up this city, sanctuary city.
What do you think they're going to do when they come down here?
Oh, clean up the city. I mean, we got a lot of people who are living here legally.
You want them pushing brooms, mopping floors?
Well, they're going to be pushing more than brooms. They're going to be pushing them into buses and vans to get them deported. You're saying brooms and mops, and they're going to be sweeping sidewalks, but that's not what's going to happen.
That's what they're doing at Union Station. That's what they're doing at the parks.
Wu. You know something, Michelle Wu, she's no good either. So she ain't doing her job up there.
I never said Michelle Wu was good.
Well, I didn't say you did. I'm just saying that a lot of the problems that we're going through here, Brian, is because of bad politics and bad politicians who themselves are not doing their job. They're letting everything go. They go to heck, So now Donald Trump thinks he can fill in that void, but the federal government can't solve all the problems, and that wasn't the intentions of the founders. There's a strong central government, but the states have the obligations, so do the cities and towns. Each one has to all work together like a well-oiled machine to do what's in the best interest of the country. But unfortunately, Brian, and I don't have to tell you this, a lot of these politicians, they put party over country, and that's where we are today. And it's all about the dollar, King Dollar. Like, what's his name, Bernie Sanders. He talks about the oligarchs, but he's an oligarch with millions of dollars and the guy never had a job in the private sector. He has 4 or 5 homes, and he's a millionaire, all off the taxpayer and big banks and big pharma. But he keeps talking about the evil billionaires and the millionaires.
So, you're right. He does. And I can't disagree with anything that you laid out there. Or right from the politicians, right to up to Bernie Sanders.
Yeah, all of them, whether it's Biden, Trump, or whoever. I mean, you put in the name of the politician. It's follow the money. And Liz Warren, too. She's in the back pocket of big banks and big pharma and big corporations. But, remember that campaign, that TV ad? She was in her kitchen up in Cambridge, and she, opened up a bottle of beer, and she, wants us to believe that her and her husband drink beer right out of the bottle every day,
Maybe they do.
They think we're that dumb.
Maybe they do. Who knows? I think she's a Haffenraffer type person.
Well, the only way we're going to turn this around, Brian, is backing the right candidates and studying on the issues and voting the right people in. Because if we don't do that, Chris likes to talk about some of the city councils falling asleep at the switch. But if the voter falls asleep at the switch, it's going to get much worse than what it is now, Brian, unfortunately.
You know what? I'm not going to argue that, but here's where I differ from my colleague, Chris McCarthy. It starts with the yous and me's. All right? We don't need the politicians to tell us to pick up our McDonald's wrapper off the ground and throw it in the damn trash can. We don't need the politicians to tell us to take care of our school, take care of our kids and get them to school if school is where you want them to go, or to choose where or how you want to educate your kid. But
absolutely.
we defer to city politicians, state politicians, Washington, and then it goes back to what you said. Then you get into the power game. What's the party saying?
You know something, Brian? Very quickly, Brian. The ancient Greeks, they looked and they saw in Greece there were so many laws. They said, one of the philosophers, I forget which one it was, but he ended up saying that when you have too many laws, then you know that your country is corrupt. And that's where we're at. It's corruption. You have to legislate everything for everything. That's when you lose your freedom. You're under communism. Is when you got the government leaders telling you, when you're going to get up and what kind of appliance you're going to buy, whether you should smoke cigarettes or not, whether it's how many ounces of soda you're going to drink. So we've got to a point where it's corruption and politicians that think they know better than the average person.
Gotcha.
And that's where we're at.
Happy Labor Day on that note.
You too, Brian. Keep your blood pressure down. Go to clam bake. Do something,
Go to a clam bake. Sounds good. Clam bake better than a clam boil. That's for sure. 508-996-0500. He is so on point. We have too many laws. My son, my oldest son, the one that got married almost 3 months ago, we were talking about the people on their cell phones, and he thought for some reason I was behind a law that made it a crime here in the Commonwealth. And I said, no, I was absolutely against the law because we have a distracted driver's law on the books. But of course, we need to let folks to know that you can't be using your cell phone while you're driving. By the way, there is not one day that I drive by somebody or somebody drives by me that's using their cell phone. And that's just cell phones. We know what kind of problem they can cause. But we also know that even the best law enforcement official, local police, state police, sheriff's department, We know they can't be everywhere every time. And while it's good to think that they could stop somebody from using their phone while they're driving, I would rather have that person, that officer, tending to other urgent needs at that particular time. That's just my thought. We have way too many laws on the books. Does that mean that we are going communist? I'm not willing to say yes to that. I'm not going to say no either. But here's what I would say. Every time there is another law in the books is another time there is less freedom.
A huge amount of dissent from D.C. residents here.
You're proud of what you're doing, show your face!
And bring about the freedom of these people by any means necessary.
At least one of the vests was labeled HSI, Homeland Security Investigations. We have a much larger presence down here now.
Welcome back to Brian's Beat. No, it's Freedom Fools. Even I can't remember what show I'm doing. 508-996-0500. That was a person who calls himself a reporter in Washington, D.C., who was monitoring what was going on with the federal agents as they were, I guess what we would say, doing their thing in the district the other day. And it was absolutely shocking to me when you think about what we have these agents doing. And it makes me wonder, our tax dollars and these agents in Boston, in South Station. I'm going to play a bit of what this reporter was experiencing. He did get to talk to someone that was, I'm not sure if this person is Homeland Security, if he's ICE, FBI, or Metro Police out of D.C. That he is talking with. But, well, you tell me your thoughts.
This is now the second time we're going down the escalator. If there's a directive for going up and down the stairs, they're doing a very good job here today in Washington, D.C. We have police federal agent, police special agent, and police written on the back of these vests here. At least one of the vests was labeled HSI, Homeland Security Investigations. We have a much larger presence down here now. We are seeing an apprehension as we speak here in the Columbia Heights Metro Station. What's going on here? Could you tell us?
Stop.
A stop? Mm-hmm. What happened?
He failed to pay his fare.
He failed to pay his fare. Why is the FBI here for fare evasion?
Do you watch the news?
I do watch the news, yeah. We're actually part of the news.
Why is the FBI in D.C., period?
Well, you tell me.
No.
It's a good question.
You tell me.
I'm here to ask you. You seem to be the expert here. Why is the FBI here? For a fare evasion case.
No.
And why is Homeland Security here for fare evasion?
They're not here for fare evasion.
So what was Homeland Security here doing?
They're here supporting everybody in D.C. with the same focus.
So the focus of Homeland Security and the FBI is fare evasion?
No, the focus of me and this officer right now is fare evasion.
Okay.
But they're going to support everything that we do, just like we support everything that they do.
Okay, we're still in the Washington, D.C. Metro Station area. There is now a much larger presence. Massive crowd of D.C. residents rejecting the Donald Trump takeover. And you're hearing some cheering. It seems like these officers are indeed leaving. As you can see, these agents are also in unmarked vehicles, like many of the agents that have been deployed to.
I do not have that person's name. I did get the name of the person's site. But again, I did not get a name. But if you want to check out the site, Z as in zebra, E as in Edward, T as in Tango, C as in Charlie, O as in Oscar.com. But the gist of it to me is the fact that we have these agents, if they're not making the physical arrest, they are assisting, like crowd control, other officers in busting somebody because they didn't pay their fare to get on the metro in Washington, D.C. So flipping that around and up 300-400 miles, is that what you want the FBI, Homeland Security investigates? Is that what you want them doing at South Station? Hey, I can tell you, and woman friend will back me up on this, there have been times that we have been at the South Station, we've paid whatever money, or there hasn't been anybody in the booth to take our money. And so we have tried with our card to get the whoosha to open up, and it doesn't open up. So sometimes we just kind of walk through because we couldn't get it to work for us. Now, nobody stops us. In fact, there's nobody there to stop us. But I bring this up because now, do you want the FBI, Homeland Security investigates, snooping over to make sure that I paid the proper $2 to go take a trolley ride? How about talking to the MBTA about having somebody in the booth so we can pay the money or get the machine to work properly? See, what I see happening here is, instead of everybody innocent until they can prove, until the authorities can prove that we're guilty, we're going to be guilty right off the bat. It's like we were watching the aftermath of Hurricane Katrina, and the people that got caught up in that, they were automatically considered guilty until they could kind of prove their innocence. Right there in front of police, little kids forced to be down on the ground with law enforcement and sometimes the military or National Guard holding guns at the back of 7, 8, 9-year-old kids' back that didn't have any weapons or any stolen items on them. Is that what you want? Because we do seem to get closer and closer to that day in and day out. Now, that doesn't mean I want crime. But as I've mentioned to you before, and as the statistics will bear out, and as many other people who frequent South Station will tell you, it is not a crime problem. And those supposedly in the know, and I'm going to put myself in that category. In my times in the city of Boston, used to work there for the longest time, there is more crime at North Station than at South Station. Did anybody whisper that to this guy, Steve Bradbury, who works for the Department of Transportation? He's the guy who came out and basically stated, here in South Boston, we need to address the cleanliness, the crime, the safety, and security of the station for the rail workers, for the passengers, because the people of Boston deserve that. The people of Boston have that, Mr. Bradbury. And all you're doing, look, I'm not a Governor Healy fan. I did not vote for Governor Healy. I don't live in the city of Boston. I did not. And if I did live in Boston, I would not have voted for Michelle Wu. But they don't need you coming in to the city. They don't need your help as you're trying to offer it. Now, that doesn't mean that there isn't a illegal or undocumented immigrant problem in the city of Boston. Two separate things. But, and I want those who voted for Donald Trump because he was going to do something about the illegals problem to really heed what I'm going to say here. You may have voted for Donald Trump to secure the border. You may have voted for Donald Trump to try to rid Massachusetts and the country as best as possible from people that are here illegally. I am willing to vote. I'm willing to bet that you did not vote for Donald Trump to send the FBI, to send ICE, to send Homeland Security Investigates, to go freshen up the flower bed around South Station or Union Station, or to pick up trash, or to play police officer. You may have wanted them to do a job dealing with folks that are here illegally, but you didn't want them creating crime in an area that doesn't have a crime problem. Will you admit to that? Because sometimes that's where it starts. It starts with folks think, wait a minute. When I watch TV, do I hear of excessive crime over at South Station? And you know you don't. Whether you're listening to WBSM News, watching New England Cable News, Channel 4, Channel 5, Channel 7, 10 out of Boston, or Channel 25, Channel 38. Do you hear stories related to crime in that area? Now, I don't hear every story. I openly admit that. And I'm not going to tell you that there is no crime in that area. But there isn't crime that you would say, call in the National Guard for. And I was reading a post the other day. I'm not sure if it was on my Facebook or somewhere else. Somebody was talking about prevention. Preventing what? Preventing what? Preventing a crime that wasn't happening in the first place? Preventing what? That's a cause for alarm, to me anyway. You're looking for that extra added safety and willing to give up the freedom for it. And then what's going to happen? You're not going to have freedom or safety. I'm not the first. I think Benjamin Franklin made that statement, and there were others of our founding fathers that were parallel to that. Give me liberty or give me death. I don't want to die. But that was Patrick Henry. It is amazing and actually shocking to me how far people will go without really checking out what the heck is going on. Now, I'm not going to Trump all over Trump right now. But really, check the numbers. Don't just go, oh, yeah, there's got to be, he must be telling the truth. Check the numbers. Check Boston Police. Not that I'm always agreeing with Boston Police, and I know they've got their problems. Check South Station. Next time you go up to South Station, in fact, it's a long weekend. Maybe between the time that I'm done here and Tuesday when I come back, you can tell me about all the crime that you saw at South Station. I can hardly wait to hear it. My ears will be open, but I don't think you're gonna find much. That's my 2 cents on that. Again, I am gonna praise President Trump right now because he has done a fantabulous job of keeping Epstein off the front page, out of the first 2 or 3 stories in the news. He has done an admirable job of keeping the redistricting low in the news. But what's going to catch up, and to me, this is the biggie. It's what's going on with the economy. We hear dribs and drabs, mostly about the people that he is removing or trying to remove from office so he can get that little bit of an edge. And you might think that's okay, but if not the framers, there were others in Washington, D.C., the power circle, that made it that one side would not have an advantage over the other, whether we're talking the Federal Reserve Board, whether we're talking the Bureau of Labor Statistics, etc. So that's where we're at. And I know a lot of people are okay with it. But when the push comes to shove, and knowing this is Labor Day weekend, let's see how we feel around November of 2026.
American people, politically ignorant and stupid.
And also more freedom of people to move between Europe and North America, if they wish. If they wish to work in Europe or wish to work in America, they should be allowed to do so, in my view. So that has certainly been my advice to the president.
You know, pretty soon the tourism numbers for the summer of 2025 are going to come out. And I can hardly wait to see what they're like here in the Commonwealth, here in our backyard, and across the USA, because I've heard they're down. And I'm willing to believe it. Adios.
Traveling around from town to town. Sometimes I think I'll settle down. But I know I'd hunger to be free. Roving's the only life for me. Adrifting, the world is my friend. I'm traveling along the road without it.
Everything from clothing to household items are getting more expensive each day. The world of fast fashion has complicated clothing production by outsourcing around the world to whoever can sew them the cheapest. And now you, the consumer, are paying the price with rising costs. American Giant is about keeping things simple and close to home. They aren't affected by tariffs because their products never leave the U.S. So when you buy from American Giant, you're taking a stand for hardworking people, local communities, and quality clothes. American Giant directly supports American manufacturers and ensures you aren't footing that tariff bill. Support American-made, tariff-free clothing with American Giant. Get 20% off your first order when you use promo code STAPLE20 at American-Giant.com. That's 20% off when you use code STAPLE20 at American-Giant.com.